Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. In this video, I'm going to have a discussion with you, but not really with you because I'm talking at you through YouTube and you can't talk back at me, but still. I'm going to have a conversation with you about the significance of album art and how it impacts our perception of the albums themselves. Now believe it.
Oh wowie gee, I am the cowman. Look at me. Oh boy, do I love the pretty pictures on the music boxes.
Callert, are you feeling okay? Something seems off.
I'm feeling rather dandy. Right as the rain.
Okay, I mean fine, but I'm pretty sure you're not, Cal.
Wait, is it already Tuesday? I think I'm going to throw up.
Okay, look at the time. It's time to go. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Time to go.
Now that the sad man is gone, it's time to get glad and make with the music. Let's get this show on. Hit it, Cal. Oh, right, that's me. Welcome to Artsplained, the show where I explain art. My name is Michelle, and sex, drugs, and the rocking and the roll, that's the life for me. Yes, sir, I sure do like the way music makes me feel. It's got that rhythm that keeps this old girl going. And what is music good for, if not bringing people together? Sometimes you don't even need to listen to music to be offended or aroused. Today, we're discussing some of the most controversial album artworks. First on this list of album artworks that you may not want to show Momo and Popep is Kanye West, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. This is Kanye West's fifth studio album, released in 2010, with featured guests that included Jay-Z, Nicki Minaj, Pusha T, and Kid Cudi, and many other artists that were pretty good, but not good enough to be included in this sentence that has already gone on for far too long. While a game changer in Kanye's career that received a nearly perfect review score on Metacritic, there were still some retailers that refused to carry the album because of its cover art. Despite this banning, the album sold nearly 500,000 copies in its first week, going straight to the top of the charts, according to The New Yorker. This artwork was created by award-winning, New York City-based contemporary artist George Condo. His works have been featured in the MoMA and the National Gallery of Art, and he has lectured at the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum, the New Museum, Columbia University, and Yale University. He was even an assistant at Andy Warhol's factory and friends with Keith Haring. He also has a bit of a sense of humor. I mean, have you ever seen Queen Elizabeth look so funny? Look at that face. When he was commissioned to create an artwork for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Kanye said that he wanted an image that would get banned. But Universal Music Group's Def Jam wasn't in total agreement with this. The LA Times reported that West was strongly urged to use alternate art, but was told if he wanted to do it, the label would stand behind him. In an interview with Vulture, Kondo described the painting, saying, "She's a kind of fragment, between a sphinx, a phoenix, a haunting ghost, a harpy. And then Kanye is also in some sort of strange 1970s burned out backroom of a Chicago blues club, having a beer, so far away from the real Kanye West that it's just a scream." On how Kondo responded to people who are offended by his painting, it didn't seem like he cared. He said, "The superimposition of people's perceptions on a cartoon is shocking. What's happening in their minds should be banned, not the painting." Despite the hubbub about the explicit sexual content and the nudity, Billboard still named it one of the best album covers ever created. I miss the days when the most appalling thing Kanye did was depict himself boinking a sphinx. Wow, Kanye. Very edgy. Proud of you. If you think that Kanye album wasn't so bad, Well, you're right. That was just a warm-up. And it's going to get a whole lot worse than abstract interspecies sex. Carcass's cover for Reek of Putrefaction is a sort of macabre collage of gruesome images, all of which were taken from real autopsy photographs from medical journals. It looks sort of cute in an Ed Gein, Jeffrey Dahmer sort of way, especially if you squint your eyes. Bill Steer, the guitarist and founding member of the grindcore band, said of the album, "I guess we wanted to cause some friction. Part of it was that teenage thing where it's fun to offend, but there was also this streak of humor running through it." John Peel, co-author of Choosing Death, The Improbable History of Death Metal and Grindcore, found that part of the appeal of the album was the cover art. He said that these grisly photos complemented the tracks on the album, including gems like Vomited Anal Tract and Manifestation of Varicose Urethra. This is not an artist's rendering or interpretation. These are real, once-living, deceased human beings on the cover. This aspect of it can understandably be seen as crossing a line. Bands like Cannibal Corpse, for example, have their share of grotesque, terrifying, horrific album covers, but they are clearly fake and not even photorealistic. On top of that, Carcass, like Cannibal Corpse, is not necessarily making a grand, meaningful statement. They're just having fun and, in a dark way, trying to be humorous. Whether that's okay or not is, well, what do you think? Golly gee willikers, if I'm still in here, then who's in there? My fear and anguish grow. Please, oh please, mister, let me back in. We are the yin and the yang, the peas in the air pod, Bonnert and Clydesdale. Oh no, wait, don't change the channel. Speaking of terrifying, horrifying, gruesome things, let's talk about the Beatles. The Beatles, yesterday and today. Today, the Beatles are known for having a relatively wholesome reputation, but, believe it or not, there was a time where they were deemed a little too edgy. Back in 1966, the album cover for the Beatles' Yesterday and Today was quite the controversy. Here on the album cover, the Fab Four are depicted wearing white butcher's coats while covered in dismembered baby doll parts and meat. From the get-go, music critics and others who were sent advanced copies of the album were offended and disturbed. By the time they reached stores, many were recalled and thrown away. So what were they getting at here? Was it a Kanye-esque provocation for provocation's sake sort of situation? Or did they have a perverted dark sense of humor like the members of Carcass? Robert Whittaker, the 26-year-old Australian photographer who took the photo for the album cover, said, "I got fed up with taking squeaky clean pictures of the Beatles, and I thought I'd revolutionize what pop idols are." John Lennon said of the artwork, "If the world can accept something as cruel as the war, they can accept this cover." Afterwards, Whittaker went on to photograph the likes of Salvador Dali, Cream, and Mick Jagger. He even wrote a book about the experience called The Unseen Beatles, released in 1991. The effort to recall copies of this heinous cover was called Operation Retrieve by Capitol Records. While some were simply given new sleeves, destroyed or thrown away, they experimented with others and had covers pasted over with a different photo. Ultimately, it was a massive failure financially, and Operation Retrieve cost them over $200,000. It is still the only Beatles album to ever lose money for Capitol Records. More recently, copies of this album with the original artwork have sold for upwards of $125,000 and are very difficult to find. While it's impossible to prove that this was their true intention, I believe that this is an admirable attempt for them to bring attention to the horrors of the Vietnam War and the unnecessary suffering that it caused for so many. They were able to make an edgy artwork that was extremely out there for the time, but there was purpose behind it. I'll always be able to get behind any artist who is taking risks, potentially at the expense of losing fans or hurting their own reputation in order to make a meaningful statement. Thanks, Bug Boys. Dead Kennedys, Frankenchrist. Frankenchrist is the third album by hardcore punk band Dead Kennedys, released in 1985. The cover itself is rather mild. It depicts a Shriners parade with members driving miniature cars. But it was a poster included in the record sleeve that truly caused this album to turn this frown 360 degrees. The poster is titled Landscape Number XX, but it is also known as Penis Landscape. It is a 1973 artwork by Swiss painter H.R. Giger, and it depicts rows of PPs and Volvinos. Giger is known for having been a part of the Academy Award-winning special effects team behind the film Alien. In 1986, 1 year after the album was released, police officers raided the label Alternative Tentacles, as well as the home of Dead Kennedys lead singer and songwriter Jello Biafra. The action was done in response to complaints by the Parents Music Resource Center, whose mission at the time was to increase parental control on music that may have had adult themes. In the 1989 spoken word album, High Priest of Harmful Matter, Tales from the Trial, Biafra summarized the whole experience in approximately 45 minutes. Here's a quick word from him on what it was like from the beginning.
So I find out that what it takes 9 cops to tear my whole house apart to find is a record album, Frankenchrist, by my old band Dead Kennedys. And inside that record album was a painting by Swiss surrealist master H.R. Giger. They really wanted his ass. I mean, one of the LA guys was going, "Where's the guy who did this painting? Where is he? Where is he?" "He's in Switzerland."
With the accusation that Biafra distributed harmful material to minors, he faced a possible sentencing of 1 year in jail and a $2,000 fine. To help pay for his legal fees, a punk rock benefit concert was hosted, and the No More Censorship Defense Fund was created for fans and free speech advocates to donate to the band and the label. The following trial almost drove the label Alternative Tentacles to bankruptcy. Luckily, the charges against the album's distribution team were dropped due to lack of evidence. Eventually, the trial against the band and label ended due to a hung jury with a vote of 7-5 in favor of acquittal. In 2005, NPR's This American Life interviewed Los Angeles prosecutor Michael Guarino, who tried to make a name for himself by taking the Dead Kennedys to court.
Well, all throughout the trial, we were seeing various anchors kind of smirking at the fact that we were doing this. That was unusual. That was different. I hadn't experienced that yet. I did start to think that I was on not the wrong side of the case so much, but more generally the wrong side of history.
After the trial, the Giger painting was no longer included in the record, except by mail order from Alternative Tentacles with proof of age. Even so, years later, the press continued to discuss the ethics of the album. While the Dead Kennedys album Frankenchrist ended up going down as one of the most famous freedom of speech cases ever for the punk rock genre, it's also a tiny bit of a disappointment because it's more often known for the emotional and financial toll on the band. While the album's songs talk about dictatorships, war, and blind hatred, these lyrical themes are rarely discussed in comparison to music censorship and free speech. These are still important to discuss, but I worry that the main points of the album may have been overshadowed by the art. In the end, Giger's painting was powerful enough to wipe out any discussions not revolved around obscenity. I guess I want to say a few words. You started off as a kind of hackneyed parody, but as I got to know you, you became more palatable, like the son I never had. And we had a deep, deep, deep father-son bond. For that, I want to thank you. Oh dearie me, I still have meat on me bones. I have to tell them that I'm still kicking. I think there's been a bit of a mix-up, you see. Hello? Oh wait, don't make me feel good. Mayhem, the dawn of the Black Hearts. In Norway's black metal scene, The normal rules of human decency don't apply. The kinds of one-upmanship as to who can be the most brutal or metal, lovingly parodied in cult hit shows like Metalocalypse, comes from a real place. Mayhem is one of the most controversial metal bands of all time, maybe the most. This is exemplified to the utmost degree with Mayhem's album cover for The Dawn of the Black Hearts. Distastefully, after Mayhem's lead singer, Paroline, otherwise known by the pseudonym Dead, took his own life in 1991, the band's guitar player, known by the stage name Euronymous, took a photo of the scene and decided it should grace the cover of their next album. You have to admit, by Norwegian black metal standards, it's maybe, I guess, the most metal thing you could do. To be clear, this wasn't official album artwork, but it was used for a live bootleg album released by Warmaster Records. Even so, goddamn. To take this even further, and this is real, Euronymous used pieces of Dead skull to create necklaces for the remaining members of the band. One of these skull fragments sold for $3,500 years later. To quote Euronymous from an excerpt of Black Metal: Evolution of the Cult, "It's not every day you get the chance to see and touch the real corpse, and it's important to learn one thing when you are dealing with the dark side. There is nothing which is too sick, evil, or perverted." This man has even allegedly made comments that he considered eating parts of Dead's brain. What the fuck? Just wait, the plot thickens. In an interview in The Guardian, one of the founding members of the band, known as Necrobutcher, claimed that Euronymous would often encourage Dead to kill himself. Some believe that taking this photo was a strange way for Euronymous to deal with his death, but to others it sounded like another way for the band to gain notoriety, which is something he did non-stop throughout his career. Necrobutcher cut all ties with Euronymous after he made this decision. Seriously though, please understand that suicide is never a solution to a problem. Your family and friends love you. You're worth it. If you're feeling this way, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Who are we to judge and say that one album cover is artistic genius and the other is just a provocateur trying to get a reaction? Does it matter either way? Where's the line? These same questions can be asked for many album covers and pieces of art out there in the world. Listening to others and at least being empathetic if you don't agree is paramount. Show some respect. Unless you don't like the cover to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. What's wrong with you? Regardless, proceed with caution if you look up any of these albums, especially at work, because they are a spicy bunch. If you want to see more Artsplainery type videos, check out Artsplained on Downhill Media. We love you.